My name is Catherine Doyle, and you are very welcome to my research assignment. The research conducted in this assignment has been a labour of love and something I have thoroughly enjoyed doing. I chose to do this assignment as I am a teacher in the adult education sphere, and I have witnessed firsthand how creative writing has benefited my students throughout the past few years. One student in particular joined my class 3 years ago because she was dealing with depression and it was suggested to her by her counsellor. There is a lot of evidence to back up creative writing being related to mental well-being, and that is what I will be showing you today. The framework I have used throughout this assignment is Brookfield's reflective model. The two lenses I have focused on are the autobiographical lens and the student lens. I find these lenses to be extremely important to practice in and outside of the classroom, albeit the main lens will be the student lens, as I believe the student brings the greatest gift of all to the classroom, and that is their lived experience. The autobiographical lens will be very short in this assignment, as I believe the student voice is more important. But when I have went through bad times, I have used creative writing as an outlet. This is how I piloted my creative writing group to my boss. This course was once called Writing for the Soul, as I believe that's what creative writing is. It heals the soul when the soul feels broken. While researching this topic, I came across Ted Fleming, someone who has had a huge impact on transformative learning in Ireland. This quote from Fleming is very important in relation to the adult learner. Many of my adult learners have said to me that when they are in school, they did not feel listened to or recognised as a learner in their own right. They felt pushed to the side as a result of learning difficulties or classroom sizes. But now they want their voices to be heard, and this is something they have been able to achieve through creative writing. Within my place of work, we publish each student's piece of work in a book called Crumlin Writes. This gives students the chance to be recognised by their peers in a ceremony of celebration, and they take a copy home with them. This is something my creative writing students have asked me about a lot this term, and it has now been decided that it will be done again and presented to students at the end of the year, helping students to feel recognised and included within the college sphere. This is a copy of Crumlin Writes 2024. Students write their own stories, and the stories are featured in this book. Later you will hear student P on our creative writing podcast, and she wrote in this edition about Bette Davis and her beautiful cigarette box. Others have wrote stories about their lives. My dad even wrote a story about the night I was born, which I came across one day while working. Writing gives people a voice, and these publications are extremely important. Unfortunately, throughout life, we go through a lot of painful experiences, and with that brings change. Sometimes these feelings can be extremely difficult to process. Therefore, writing gives people a way to express themselves. It also gives them a way to feel more youthful and carefree. This is something one of my students relayed to me in class while working. She said, "Catherine, I feel like I'm in school again, carefree while doing creative writing." During the creative writing process, students learn to pause and be in the present for that 1 hour 30 minutes. They can also write about their past, but they will always come back to the present moment of being in the classroom. To gauge the student voice, I decided to do a podcast-style interview with my students on the benefits of creative writing and how it has helped them through bad times. The idea of a podcast came about as I asked my students to complete a student survey on Google Docs, and this was something many of them said they would struggle with. Some of my students on this course are in homeless accommodation, and access to the internet is limited, and some do not use the internet at all. This podcast meant I could get students' views straight from them, and it was something they all loved doing. One lady said that she felt that she was on the radio and felt very important. In this podcast, you will hear from 3 of my creative writing students: Students A, Student M, and student P. Please press play on the microphone to hear this podcast. This piece of work has been something I have really enjoyed. Throughout this module, I have learned to listen to my students, and I have realised just how important the student voice is to the student as well as the educational feedback process. I asked my students to give feedback on the podcast process, and the feedback was extremely positive. One was very nervous, but delighted when it was done, as she felt that her voice was now important. As a result of conducting this research, I have decided to use the podcast-style feedback for more of my classes. This will give everyone a chance to be heard. I now plan to set up a podcast for students called the Writing for the Soul podcast, and I hope this style of feedback could be used by other teachers within the CDETB, as I have found this style of feedback invaluable as well as extremely enjoyable. I feel as though I have only scratched the surface with this research, and it is something I would be extremely interested in pursuing next year for my Masters. Thank you so much for listening today, and I hope you have taken something valuable from this research.